All right, so I am here with Debbie Roy, second grade teacher here at Dry Ridge Elementary. We're just going to kind of go through this interview. So, what have you come to discuss with me today?
That's just inclusion with those unit and FMD students that we have in the population here at school.
Okay, so we're going to just talk about some of the benefits, some of the pros, some of the cons with those that population of students coming into the regular ed classroom. So how do we include this population of students in our school?
They come into our classrooms. They're in the classroom for activating schema part of our lesson, for our mini lesson, and oftentimes through the guided practice, so that when they leave and go back to their classroom, they kind of know what to expect on that independent practice.
Okay. So that's including them with those regular ed students and not just in that resource setting. That way that they get that exposure with those students as well.
Right. They have a positive environment of learning because they get to come in and sit with their peers as a group and have that exposure as to what goes on in the regular ed classroom.
Okay, look at me. What would be an example of the assignments that you send to the resource classroom for these students to complete?
An assignment that might go with them to complete is, like, if we're learning about slow events and quick events, they may have a list of those type of events that happen here on Earth, and they have to identify one of them. It may be too that we differentiate that even more so that they just draw a picture. If we have a little passage and 3 questions, then they may only answer one of the questions, and the passage can be read to them.
Okay.
And it can also be discussed.
Okay, so they are still getting the gist of the target that you're trying to reach, and then also just the assessment that you're trying to get to make sure that those students are still getting the skills and the concepts that the regular ed students are getting as well.
Yes.
Okay. So are the second grade students that have this type of schedule and this type of routine, are they successful with it?
Yes. We often make sure that they really understand what the target was, what they're expected to do, and they are very successful.
Okay. So do you know, or can you think of anything that we could do to better this inclusion for this population of students?
We do a really good job of making sure they are included. They're included not only during lessons, but they're included with their peers when we go to lunch, when we go to recess, when we go to activities. We make sure they're included. If we happen to go on a field trip, they're also invited to attend. So we do a really good job. It may be that we might want to think about the time limit. I know some students may need a break, maybe even in between, just a little short break away from whatever they're getting ready to do. But maybe if they could spend maybe a little more time in the classroom so that they could even have a chance to talk about that independent work with their peers.
Okay. So what I have heard you say a lot about is we're just trying to make sure that these students are still included with that regular ed population. So they're still getting those same assignments. They're still getting those same concepts and skills that those regular ed students are getting as well, but it may look a little bit different. Their schedule may look a little bit different as well because they're not in the regular ed classroom for as long as the regular ed students. But you still have set those high expectations for that population of students, even though they're not in there for the entire time. And we could possibly look at some alternatives for students that maybe need more time in the regular ed classroom and maybe need some breaks and some time that away from the regular ed classroom and then bring it back together. So
yes, I think that would be very beneficial for both of them. And it's really, really good for those regular ed students too, because they get to see a diverse population. And we are more of a class family, and it shows tolerance and just things that we can build on in our classroom too.
Okay. All right. Perfect.